Mental health services are community services, and they involve family members, neighbors. The patients have to have those people involved in their lives, in their treatment, and to the extent that we can involve patients and their loved ones in those treatments is our goal.
It just really touches me. I know that people get well, they improve.
Every once in a while you get that kind of confirmation that what you're doing has made a difference, and that's part of why we do what we do.
We finally, after several medication trials, were able to target the symptoms that brought him to the psych unit. He had been having auditory hallucinations and had been agitated, and that was done away with, but it was hard to communicate with him. Because of the stroke, he had difficulty speaking, and it took a lot of labor on his behalf to talk. And he usually, when I would try to talk with him, he would just shush me because he just got too discouraged. It wasn't worth it. This was around the time of September 11th, and I had been working with him for probably about 2 weeks, and I was off for a few days, came back a couple of days after September 11th, and like everybody else, was feeling pretty drained emotionally from everything that had happened on September 11th. And on my lunch break that day, my first day back, I came down, actually, here for my lunch break to the harbor, and I watched a local crane company putting up a gigantic flag over the harbor, and it was really beautiful. And so I thought when I got back, I had to take him for his daily walk, and I would take him down, and maybe the sight of it was so beautiful, I thought it might inspire him to talk with me. And we did. We took a walk down the hallway, and I told him I had something special to show him, and I figured he had been a veteran because he was 79. I thought at that age he probably was in World War II. And as we approached the window and he looked out, and it was the first time that he initiated a conversation with me. And it was really difficult for him to speak, and it was difficult to understand him, but he went on to tell me about being a Marine and the battles that he had been in, and some good friends that he lost, and how he met his wife. And I just couldn't believe, after 2 weeks of trying to communicate with him, he finally would talk with me. He became animated, and the next day I couldn't wait to tell his wife, who was feeling so discouraged that her husband, who she loved for so long, was just gone. He was here in body but not in spirit. And she didn't believe me at first. And then as I went on to tell her the details, she began to cry. And even though we would have to place him in a nursing home, it just made her feel better that despite the stroke, and that her husband still was there. He wasn't just a stroke patient. He was the man that she has loved for so long, was still there. And so it's very satisfying to be able to help families reach some sort of acceptance, and also to help this patient who was just so locked into this body that didn't work anymore in his mind, yet he still was able to connect with another human being. So he was probably one of my most satisfying patients.
In the spectrum of healing, of a client going through therapy who's been sick, usually by the time they are feeling well enough due to therapy, talk therapy, medication, treatment, they begin to look back at the world around them, the community around them, and think, you know, I can re-enter this, whether it's re-entering a relationship, re-entering other commitments with family, or re-entering the work world. I always say work is wellness, and it becomes one of the final pieces that needs to be put into place for someone to return to being a very self-sufficient, healthy member of his or her own community.
I mean, it's very gripping. Sometimes you see, you know, the youngest of young kids who have been through terrible trauma and have, you know, difficult genetic histories, and they have, you know, they've been through a lot and they're still very young, and it can be very painful to see what they've been through and what they're suffering with. On the other hand, it's very uplifting work because you feel like you can help. And so ultimately, I do feel very good about it.
Saturday I was out and about and I ran into Lucia, and she's looking so great.
Where was she?
Well, she just got back from her honeymoon, if you can believe it, and she was asking about you.
Oh, that's so
and
wonderful.
she wanted me to tell you hello and that she's doing well, and she's married.
Oh, I'm so glad. Do you remember how difficult relationships were for her when she was in her partial?
Oh yeah, I mean that was all of her crises were around her relationships, and she's been working real hard, and my understanding is that she's still working hard on those issues, but she's feeling like she's made a real successful life for herself.
Cape Cod Human Services provides outpatient services, and that's the sort of core of its existence. It's trying to help people who have mental health problems function better, improve their lives, and get on with their lives. So I think it's a critically important element because a smaller portion of what we all do is done in inpatient settings. That's the more acute end. We do a lot more, I think, and probably will. I'm really excited about our new PAT team because it really has the opportunity to reach out and catch people before they need inpatient services and get them into the service system in some way to help them out.
Spirits, unfortunate lives, all tossed together on a 20-bed locked psychiatric unit. Some seeking solace or else just dragged in against their will. Who are we to judge who passes judgment on what is normal? We do our best, and we open our hearts and minds to help those whose lives are shattered. At times we make a difference, or at least provide a patch so that those perceived as less fortunate, or just even out of luck, can proceed on the road to a destination of hope, recovery, forgiveness, and redemption.